Democrats are beginning to staff up ahead of their House takeover in January and looking for a lot of lawyers while doing it. So does this mean investigations into President Trump could be on the way very soon? If so, will that game plan backfire on the Democrats? Joining me now, GOP strategist Ken Chase, Democratic strategist Rochelle Ritchie, and attorney Jenna Ellis. Good to see you all. So Rochelle, whatever happened to the promises of legislate, don't investigate? A lot of Democrats were saying that a couple of months ago, not now.
Well, I think that anyone that is surprised that Democrats are seeking a team of lawyers to sort of go after Trump might be living under a rock if they're surprised by that. I'm not surprised by it. I think that we should have expected it, especially when you consider the hyperbole that's been coming from some of the Democrats, you know, Congresswoman Maxine Waters for sure, that this should not be a surprise. And so I think that what we're going to see is possibly a team of young lawyers, because one of the articles I read said that they're having some new lawyers, young lawyers come in. I think that what we're going to see is possibly either a president resigning or a president being impeached. And I think that we need to be prepared for that.
Ken, you know, some Republicans are saying, okay, bring it on. You know, when you look at the composition of the Senate, you have more Republicans, more conservative Republicans in the Senate. Even if there is an impeachment brought by the House, it ain't going to pass by the Senate, is it?
Oh, of course not. And the American people are sick and tired of the investigations. People in Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Michigan care about jobs and health care. They do not care about tax deductions in 1994 on President Trump's tax returns. That's not going to do anything for the benefit of the American people. These investigations are going to be fun for the press. The president is sitting in the Oval Office during a vacation, and Democrats won't come to the table and work with him. These investigations will be fun for the press, but they will not do anything for the American people. And voters are going to take note of that in 2020.
Jenna, Ed Rendell, who's the former Democrat governor of the state of Pennsylvania, wrote an article in Fox News back in November saying it would be a great waste of time and energy to investigate anything that is in the purview of the Mueller investigation. This is advice he gave to Democrats. Don't investigate. Focus on legislating. Is there any chance that Democrats will take his advice?
Probably not, unfortunately. And I think that we saw the Democrats' priorities in the Kavanaugh hearing, that they are just so hateful against President Trump, and they're so hateful against anyone else that he's trying to nominate or anything that he's trying to accomplish. And so because their focus is so much on their own political priorities, they are forgetting the American people. They're forgetting that their first obligation is to do the duties that are and the responsibilities of Congress. And so if they're not going to come out and prioritize any legislation, bipartisanship, do anything, I mean, like we saw the First Step Act. That was a great example of prioritizing bipartisanship, doing something that was meaningful to the American people. If they're not willing to do that, I think Ken is right that the voters will remember that in 2020, and I don't think that will bode well for the Democrats.
Rochelle, Ed is a great Democrat. I mean, he was a leader of the Democrat Party. He's kind of retired now, but he brings up a good point. If the Mueller investigation is looking deeply into something, and they've had a lot of experience in doing that, why double up on that with an investigation in Congress? Just leave it up to Mueller.
Well, I think that there's some things that Mueller is not looking at. I don't think he's
like
necessarily.
What, for example?
I don't think he's looking at President Trump's tax returns. I think that's something that Democrats are really, really interested in learning more about. So I think that's where they're going with this, especially because some of the job description and the requirements is, you know, money laundering and subpoenas and things like that. So I think that's where the Democrats are going, and they're letting Mueller do his investigation. But I think that we have to let the investigation finish. And look, Ken was right. Right now, you don't have the votes, obviously, from the Republicans in the Senate if you're trying to impeach the president.
Right.
However, I think that Republicans, it would be really hard for them not to consider it if the Mueller investigation reveals that there was some sort of criminal intent. And let's keep in mind that that the impeachment process is not a criminal process, right? It's a political one.
Political.
So you have to have the support of the members of Congress. But I think that Republicans would have to support him.
You also have to have a legal basis. I mean, this isn't just political to say that we're going to undermine the will of the American people and who they elected just because we don't like the policies of this particular president. And so for the Democrats to go after impeachment when there's absolutely no legal basis, there's nothing to say. Yeah, but it's been 2 years with the Mueller investigation. We don't know the scope of the investigation, but if there was something that he had, you know we would have known it by now.
I think that Mueller might wait. I really think we're going to be waiting for a long time because I think he wants to see what's going to happen in 2020 because the possibility of indicting a sitting president is also an issue, right? So if Trump comes out and say he does not win in 2020, is that when Mueller is going to pursue some sort of criminal
Ken, there is one group that is not waiting, and that's the American public. I mean, they're looking at all this, and frankly, I think there's kind of a fatigue about these investigations, don't you?
Of course there's a fatigue, and voters are tired of hearing about it. The only headline that's now clickbait is when will the end of the Mueller investigation be? The Mueller investigation should run its course, and he should investigate whatever he needs to investigate. There's no way to predict whether it's going to end before the 2020 election or after. My belief is that it probably will end before. There doesn't seem to be any other directions in which it can go, and we have quite a bit of time before the election. So that will be a big turning point about what happens. But as to the Democrats investigating matters that Mueller is already investigating, that should not happen, and it doesn't need to happen. So this will be corollary things, and under Rule 26 and Rule 45, it needs to be relevant to whatever litigation is ginned up to try to find Trump's tax returns. That's the holy grail that the Democrats are after, and it's a red herring. The American people don't care about it, and it doesn't benefit the lives of the American people.
Rochelle, you know, we just had Ken Starr on, and looking back at what he was doing in the investigations against President Bill Clinton, a lot of even Republicans now admit that they made a mistake in pursuing that as much as they can. Democrats actually ended up, I think, enjoying the fact that the Republicans were so determined to impeach him. And of course, he was impeached, but he was ruled innocent by the Senate.
Right.
A lot of people think it really helped the Democrats long term because the economy was doing pretty well. The economy right now is doing pretty well. When things are going well in the economy and a president who may be at least partially responsible for that is being thrown barbs by Congress, Americans get kind of upset at that. They think, why upset the apple cart?
Well, I think that there was a poll that came out that showed that the economy, normally the economy is the number one issue when it comes to voting. But in this last midterm election, it was healthcare, immigration, and the economy. I think that we have this sort of thing just in natural human behavior that when something's going well, that's great. Now, what are you going to do for me?
Don't you worry that perhaps there could be, beyond fatigue, an actual hostility by American public about going after a president the way Republicans went after Bill Clinton in the 90s?
Well, look, I think that they should have went after Bill Clinton in the 90s as they did. I'm not that much of a Bill Clinton fan, so I'm not going to defend him. So I think they should have went after him. But I think that you have to let this happen. I mean, when you look at what Cohen said to Mueller in that report as far as being directed by Trump to, use campaign funds to pay off his infidelities and this whole relationship with Putin being a phenomenal benefit, you have to look into that.
They also had a basis to go after Clinton that they don't have with Trump.
Thank you very much, folks. Well, new worries about a flu outbreak. Are you in a danger zone? Details coming next.